Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast helping your family cruise a little smarter. And I'd like to welcome back to the show all the way down in Florida. She was going to be in line to get her Figment popcorn bucket today, but there was too many people there. And so she's here joining me today. How are you doing today, Christy?
I'm well. Too many people, too much work. So now I'm with you guys.
And God bless capitalism, because it's already on sale on eBay for like over $200.
That it's not a God bless. That's frustrating. And it's all of the adjectives. Annoying.
Well, I'd like to welcome back to the show. Always enjoy talking to one of our favorite guests out in California. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on again.
We'd love having you on. And I'm excited to talk to you. I know that you and Lisa have been on a Disney cruise since the cruise ship started sailing, but this time the whole family went.
Correct.
And not only did the whole family go, but you guys went back to back on the Disney Dream over New Year's Eve. How cool is that?
It was a lot of fun.
So I guess before we jump into it, had you, I can't remember, you guys have been on a New Year's Eve cruise before, right?
No, we've done Thanksgiving, Easter, but this is the first time for New Year's.
I feel like we're kind of following you because we did Thanksgiving this year. We have got a Christmas cruise booked next year, just in case as a backup for something else. But Anawake really wanted to do New Year's after hearing you guys being on the ship, or hearing about you guys being on the ship as well.
But it was fun to celebrate. It's fun to celebrate holidays on the ship for us, I think. And I couldn't talk the family quite into Christmas, so New Year's worked out for us.
And Christy, you just got off the Christmas cruise. What makes these kind of one-off cruises special when you're sailing on the holidays?
So Disney does little touches, which is cute, but just the ease of it. Like, you don't have to think about, what are we going to eat for Christmas dinner? What are we going to eat for New Year's Eve dinner? You're eating what they're serving you. So it's
that sounded
so nice.
bad.
Well, I know, but you're not, so you get to choose, right? Between 5 dishes or going to specialty restaurants or getting room service, but you're not doing any cleaning. You're not doing any cooking. You don't have to even make your bed during that holiday. It is the most relaxing way, in my opinion, to spend a holiday.
And so, Chris, being on the ship over New Year's Eve, and we'll talk about New Year's and like what all went on in a little bit later in the show, but was there like a different vibe to everybody sailing since you guys are sailing over New Year's Eve?
A little bit. I think I'm a lot more excited, kind of more of a party type, celebrate something. But Disney tried to kind of mute it too, because they didn't tell you what exactly was going on. You kind of had to find it. So I think it was kind of a muted New Year's compared to normal times, before COVID.
Trying to maybe reduce the crowds or something like that, or
exactly,
people getting together.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, before we get to New Year's Eve, you guys start off, and I really wanted to touch on this. You guys live in California, fly all the way over to the East Coast into Orlando, like a lot of us have to do. And instead of staying at Disney, this time you guys stayed at the hotel right there at the airport. And I think we've talked about it before, but I wanted to touch on that again. Why did you guys decide to stay there?
Just the ease. I mean, you collect your luggage, you walk a quarter mile, you're in the lobby of the hotel, and we always take a flight that lands. We landed like at 9:30. So by the time we got in the hotel, got showered, everything's like 11, go to sleep, and the next day you go to the ship. So it's just quick and easy.
I know you guys you've got a car service that you use to get out to the port. Christy, do you know, is there any other type of services that you can use to get from MCO now to the ships? Does Mears offer transportation? Actually not Mears, because Disney Cruise Line is still offering transportation, which you can buy. Do they still offer that from the airport?
They do.
What is it, like 15
In fact,
bucks?
they knocked on my door trying to get my luggage at 8:00. I'm like, we have our own transportation. We're good.
Wow. I'm surprised, because usually I have to set up for that. So what it is Disney Cruise Line, if you're staying at the Hyatt at the airport, which is like attached to the airport, it could not be more convenient. They will actually take your luggage at 8:00 in the morning and get it to the ship, sort of like the olden Magical Expressways where you weren't like taking it. It like cuts the porter out. It's so convenient. I believe transportation's like $39 a person right now from the airport.
So Chris, I know you guys didn't do anything since you got in there later in the evening. You just got up and headed to the port the next day. But do they have a pool? Are there some things to do around the hotel there? Do you know?
There is a pool. Anything else? I know there's a lounge too. I thought when I was checking in, told me the lounge was serving food to a certain time or something, like a bar lounge. But we just were tired, so we just called it a night.
Any other thoughts about staying there, Christy?
There's a restaurant up at the top too, so you can have whole meals up there. It's really convenient. It's very convenient. That's literally all I can say. We actually covered, though, all of the pre-cruise transportation in episode 97, an oldie but a goodie. So places to stay before cruising out of Port Canaveral. So we discussed all the different options. So listeners can go back and listen to that. And staying at the Hyatt was one of the places we discussed.
Okay. So you guys get on the Disney Dream back to back. Was it 4 and 3 day or 3 and 4 day? How did it work for you guys?
We did the 4 and 3 days. We boarded on Monday morning.
Okay. And this is the first time that Nick and Emily are cruising with Disney Cruise Line. What were they excited? Or not the first time. They've cruised with them several times. I'm sorry. But the first time since the ship started sailing again, what were they excited to do, or what were they excited about as far as getting back on board?
I think Emily was excited. Now that she's 18, she got to go to Powell for dinner and brunch with us one time. Nick just like, going to get pizza from the pool deck or hamburgers or whatever, and not having to answer to anybody about going to bed or anything. So him, it's just, he could be on his own and we're not bugging him.
I think the only thing that would make it perfect is if the Wi-Fi was as quick on the ship as it is at home for Andrew and probably Nick as well.
Yeah, there was some growling the first night, I believe, when he remembered how slow the Wi-Fi was.
He's got to go in through what am I looking for? He's going through not rehab, but that's not the right word. Withdrawal. Sorry,
yeah.
I'll
withdrawal,
say
yes.
Yeah.
So
Nick
100%.
and every other person on the planet.
you get through withdrawal when you get on board the Disney ships, and then after 5 days, you're kind of back to normal again. All right. Well, was there anything different as far as getting on board? Kind of the same protocols?
Yeah, so we got there at 10:15. We're one of the first groups to test. So I think we were in the terminal before 11, and I think we got on the ship at 11:15.
And one of the things that you said, and I remember you kind of texted me that they were taking the tree down already. So unlike the Disney parks where they keep Christmas up through New Year's and at least through Marathon Weekend for a lot of the places, Disney Cruise Line takes it down pretty quickly.
Yeah, we were gotten the concierge area and the platinum waiting area there. You could see the ship, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. They're taking everything off the ship right now. It's like, that was kind of frustrating because I know in years past, it wasn't a very merry sailing, but in years past, the decorations would stay up till past New Year's. This year, they decided to take it down that Monday. So,
I mean, with New Year's, we kept our tree up. We had some friends over for New Year's, and I think it just kind of makes the house feel a little bit more special, I guess, for New Year's Eve. Did they do anything for New Year's Eve? Did they put anything up in the lobby, I guess?
No, it kind of, honestly, we always go to Alani for New Year's, and the Christmas stuff is up. So it always feels festive. You're going into New Year's. It kind of gives you that feeling. And here it's like everything was gone. It was just a regular sailing, like we're in June or something.
Yes, at the Magic Kingdom, it was Christmas through at least the 12th of January this year. This is ridiculous. Disney changed that. Keep the tree up at least through New Year's.
There was some random things on the island where Christmas decorations are still up in some random places they forgot, I think. And the Christmas music was playing like at Cookies. It's like, you couldn't give me a tree, but we still got Christmas music here now.
Some things just don't make sense, do they? Well, let's kind of turn to this sailing. Did you guys stay in the same cabin for both sailings?
Yes, we had the Roy suite for both sailings.
And how does that work? Do you guys, when you get off the ship, can you leave all your luggage and everything in the suite itself, or?
So you leave everything in there. I kind of asked the concierge, I'm like, what happens if one of us tests positive? And he goes, well, then we pack your stuff up for you. So I told the family, just kind of organize your stuff, put your medicine bag away in case they pack our stuff up. Otherwise, it was pretty simple and easy.
Let's just turn to the back-to-back stuff, I guess. Was there anything else that you had to do differently with the cabin before you left it, as far as getting off and getting back on again?
No. So the night before, they gave us an information sheet telling us where to meet in the morning. We had to meet in the 678 lounge at 9:15. We got down there. There was probably 5 or 6 other families, like 30 people total. They talked to us for a minute. There was actually a couple there, an older couple, doing cruise number 97 and 98. And they're kind of excited. The officers excited to tell us that. But then they walk us off the ship, walk us through custom, took a couple minutes, walk us straight over the testing tents. By 10 o'clock, we were all negative again and walking back into the terminal. And then the only holdup was they have to reboot their computers for the next sailing. So that took a little while. And they finally had that all done. And they took all the group had to stay together in the terminal. And then they took us all back on the ship at the same time. And by 10:45, we were back in the atrium, and there was not a person in there. It was very odd. There was no one welcoming you on the ship. There was not a ship's officer anywhere. At one point, it's just my family of 4 in the atrium for like 5 minutes just looking around.
You got your welcome once. You don't get a second one, huh?
No, you don't get a second one.
Did you keep the same key to the world card then, or?
No, so they issue a new key to the world card. And at that point, they said you can go back to your room if you want. So we had to go through the lounge because the doorways are closed off. And, it's hustling and bustling. All the room attendants are changing all the rooms over and stuff. They'd already done our room, so we were good to go. And it was super easy and fun.
So the Roy Suite, Christy, is in concierge. What does concierge offer guests?
An enjoyable cruise experience. You can have an enjoyable experience. You guys know I've cruised like 4 times on Disney this year, not in concierge. Haven't cruised anybody in concierge this year. Well, 2021, but a little extra. So there are concierge hosts that honestly, they could make the experience themselves. There's 3 of them on each of the sailings. There's a lounge, and in that lounge is food and drink. Typically, there are hours that the food and drink are off. The drinks, like non-alcoholic beverages, are there all day. But there's a heavier continental breakfast. There is a very light lunch, and then appetizers in the evening and dessert in the evening as well. So sort of like if anybody ever experienced club level at Walt Disney World, it's sort of a similar experience to that in terms of the offerings.
And one thing that is new, they have the drink trolley. So if you want to bring drinks to your room, they'll just bring them to your room at whatever time you tell them, and they'll have your drinks ready to go.
Do they bring the muffaletta sandwich too?
No, I had to go get that myself.
Sorry.
We did just cover, we had a trip report with Carol shortly after the sailings restarted. She is Disney Mom of 3 on Instagram, and she went into detail about what is included on concierge cruises right now in Disney Cruise Line. So that would be a good one to go back and listen to.
So on the Dream, Chris, the concierge area is kind of a separate area up on the front of the ship versus the Magic of the Wonder, where it's all on deck 8. Do you like that better as far as where the cabins are located?
Actually, no. I like it better on the Wonder and the Magic, where it's more centrally located on the ship. Our room can't be any far forward, and we're going to Palo, so that's the longest possible walk you can get.
Helps you burn those calories.
I don't mind it, but my wife in her high heels, it's like, she goes, I need carpet, so I got to find a deck that's got carpet on it.
That is a long walk, actually, when you go, because I kind of forget about that. When we went from the Wonder to the Dream, walking along, we always get a cabin like either in the front or the back of the ship. So when you have to do the whole hallway, that is a long ways down there. Let's turn to your suite then. So you guys stayed in the Roy Suite. Is that the one that you normally stay in? Or is that the one you guys like? And why do you pick that one versus the Walt?
We started choosing that one because it was starboard, and we like to be on starboard. We're just out of habit. Started because we want to see Castaway, and just it seems like I always book starboard. So we had 12502 and 12504, which is the adjoining room next door. That's the regular family stateroom.
I saw that you get to go over and see the Walt Suite. Is there any difference between the two of them?
Yes, I've always been curious because we actually had it booked for 2 or 3 cruises that got canceled. And I knew the bathroom was a little different. So once we got back on the second sailing and they were just cleaning the room still, I asked our room attendant, do you think I can go look? And he's like, oh, yeah, no problem. He takes me in there. There was like 3 people cleaning there. Then I felt bad because they all stopped and they started giving me a tour. And so on the Roy Suite, the bedroom is next to the window looking out the starboard side of the ship. On the Walt Suite, the bathroom is in that position. The bedroom's inside a little bit. And so it has the bathroom with a different layout. And then they were showing me it has a frosted glass, switch. So it makes the glass from clear to frosted. So if you're in your bathroom getting ready and your family's out on the deck, they can't see into the window. Otherwise, the rest of the room is just a mirror image. But it was kind of fun to see, the differences. And it actually had different darker colors, like for the granite on the sink and stuff like that. But even on the classic ships, the Royal Suites, one was always lighter and darker. They're always the same layout, but one had really dark burl wood and one had lighter wood.
But do you know they're doing that actually with the Wish too? If we think back to some of those suite pictures, the Royal Suite, like depending on
right next to the window,
different locations for that, but depending on whether you got the 2-story Royal Suite or the 1-story, right? They have like a different color scheme to how they are decorated. So that must be a conscious effort on Disney's part.
I would assume, because I never realized on the classic ships until, because we stayed in the Roy 2 or 3 times. Also, we're in the Walt, and I'm like, whoa, this is totally different inside here. It was like super, super dark.
Well, if any of our listeners knows why that is, maybe there's a difference between their personalities, Roy and Walt, as to why there's got to be a reason. There's always a reason why Disney does something. So if anybody out there knows, we'd love to hear it from you, or if anybody has a good guess, that'd be good too. All right, I'm going to put you on the spot, Chris. You have recently sailed on Royal Caribbean and Celebrity and stayed in their concierge suites as well, some of their higher end suites. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts as to what Disney does well and how Disney needs to up their game compared to the experiences you've had with Royal and Celebrity.
Disney, it's all about, they're very people oriented. They give you a great experience, a very customer service based. And same thing with Celebrity. I felt, just as people taking care of me. But on Celebrity, I liked that all our alcohol was included. And I'm not a huge drinker. All our specialty dining was included. The tips were all included. I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. And they had so many more options for specialty restaurants. I understand Disney is big on the rotational dining with families and stuff, but just give us one more specialty restaurant. It's like Celebrity, I think we had 6 specialty restaurants. So that was just a game changer for me when cruising.
Celebrity too, even in their cabins that are not their upper end suites, have a really nice room service menu. Like you can get smoothies and you can get fresh squeezed orange juice delivered. You can't even find fresh squeezed orange juice on a Disney ship, let alone get it delivered to your room for no additional charge. And it's legitimately fresh squeezed. So there's just some of those things that Disney can improve. And hopefully that might happen in the future.
And like on the Celebrity sailing, our room service came from the suite restaurant that would eat at any time of the day when you wanted to. So the food was made fresh right there. I mean, our room happened to be right next to it. They walked 30 feet from the kitchen to our room. And I get a hamburger. And it wasn't like the hamburger on the pool deck. It was like a hamburger you pay $25 for in a restaurant at home. So the food was really a game changer on the Celebrity. And on Royal, we ate at all specialty restaurants, had all great meals. The hibachi on Royal was one of the highlights of all our sailings this year with the kids. We had a blast on that restaurant. We were there like 3 hours that night. It was great.
So obviously Disney can up their game a little bit with the food options compared to what's offered on Royal and Celebrity. How about just the rooms themselves, Chris? How do they compare? Was there anything that you liked better on Disney, or are there some things that they could change?
So on Celebrity, we had the iconic suite, which was just makes the Royal suites look like pathetic on Disney. But Disney's Royal suite has a bigger deck, which is a nicer deck area. And on Royal, we had I think it was the Royal suite, and it was an older ship, and it hadn't been refurbed in a while. It had a little wear in it, but it was a very spacious room compared to Disney. It was a lot more room in the bedroom part of it, and we liked that. And the kids had the equivalent of a 1-bedroom on Royal. Actually, it was cheaper than the 1-bedroom that Disney would have, and twice the size. It was this huge room. They both had full-size beds, basically, so.
Any other ways do you think Disney could probably up their game a little bit? Hopefully they're going to change some of these things on the Wish. Obviously, it's a little bit tough to completely redo room plans once the ships are made without going through dry dock and really kind of changing things around. Any other things that you could see Disney doing, or that you think that they could maybe add to kind of up their game a little bit?
I'm just hoping they get some internet that's halfway decent. On Celebrity, I had my phone on the whole time using the cellular at sea and the Wi-Fi, and no one at work knew I was on a cruise ship. They thought I was in my office. I took normal business calls all day long. On Disney, half the time the Wi-Fi doesn't work. Half the time I couldn't get the phone to work. It's just very frustrating when the technology's out there, and it's like, if everyone else can do it, Celebrity, one of the options for my room was they could bring a Peloton. I wasn't impressed that they can bring me a Peloton. I was impressed that they could have the Wi-Fi that would support the Peloton.
That is hilarious about the Peloton, but I do agree that the Wi-Fi is so much better on Celebrity and Royal, and that it's, I get that people want to unplug, but then that can be a choice a little bit, right? Like going back to allowing us to make our own decisions, because I can't unplug totally. I might be more willing to go on a cruise without my son if I could actually hear from them without logging in and using a megabyte of data to determine whether something is happening at home or not. That's just, I don't know.
That's how it was for us on Celebrity. My son was home the longest we've ever left him. I was able to FaceTime him every night. If I couldn't be connected on board, I couldn't go as often because I have a lot of commitments. On our Celebrity sailing, I think I had 4 or 5 Zoom meetings during that week, and they all worked flawlessly. I tried to do one on Disney this last time, and it wouldn't want to work. And I was like, oh, hell with it, and just gave up.
Something to note for the listeners too, that the Walt and the Roy suite do include unlimited megabytes. So
Correct.
It's not like the rest of the cabins that are getting their free 50 the first day and then not getting anything else. And Concierge does get an additional 100 megabytes per cabin, not per adult. So that is something that exists as well if you are not in a Roy or a Walt.
And so, yeah, we don't even log out since we have. But the trouble is, it logs you out or doesn't work. I got to redo everything. And back with Celebrity, the internet was included with our room on that too. And so
I'm going to just throw this out there too, because I'm sure that you let the concierge host know your kind of opinions on this, right, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't mean that negative.
And they're just as frustrated as us because they're trying to talk, keep touch with people at home and stuff. And it's like, they have the same frustrations we do.
I mean, I know with my job, our management, from our point of view, we feel like management never listens to us. So we always tell the customers, make sure that you tell them what you want because they're going to listen to you. They're not going to listen to us. And it just seemed I can't believe with all the feedback that they've got that they haven't really, made that a priority, I guess. So,
and I wrote it on all 3 of our surveys in the last 3 cruises here in the last few months. And we'll see if anyone ever listens.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
How did you have space? They give you like 2 lines to voice an opinion.
Really small down there.
Really quick before we move on, I had an opportunity yesterday to do a phone call with Disney Cruise. Well, with like people that work for travel agent support, basically. They were interviewing people that they had offered those cruises to in the fall. And they wanted to know, like, what our opinions were, pros and cons. And I got to say all of my comments about the internet and how, and honestly, especially even for a travel planner, if you are sending us on a cruise, wouldn't you like us to be able to tell people what a fabulous time we're having? And everybody else wants to do that too. Carnival even has figured out how to charge people just like $5 a day to give social media access. At least Disney could at least do that.
And then on the island too, the cell tower's been down. They fixed it and it's down again. So it's like on November, the cell tower's down. They fixed it and come back for New Year's, cell tower's down again. So that whole day on the island, I have no internet. It was very annoying. And then I had to check in for a flight on our second time around the island. And the Wi-Fi wasn't working. So yeah, it's frustrating. They need to up their game for sure.
All right. Well, let's move to a couple other things that you guys did while you were on the ship this time. You guys did the rainforest room. Can I talk about that? How does the rainforest room work now, Chris, for people that want to take part in that?
So now it's just your immediate travel party. I believe up to 10 people. And I think it was $200 or I think it's $200 for an hour and 45 minutes. So it's just, you have to book it ahead of time. And even concierge, you can't book it until you get on the ship and you let your concierge host know, and they'll try to accommodate you in the time they can get. And so it's just you, it's just your family. So it's just very relaxing and kind of fun because you're the only ones in there. We really enjoy it. We hope it stays this way.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that as far as, or reduce some of the people that were in there, because the one time we did do the rainforest room on the Fantasy, like it was so packed in there that like some of the things that you wanted to do, you could, like we could never even get on those warm loungers at all. And I wanted to at least try one of those out.
So I think there's like 20 of those loungers. And there's just like 3 of us laying on them at the most at any given time.
Did you have a hard time getting the time that you wanted, or did you feel like it was booked out the whole trip? Did you notice it all?
It was. I'm pretty sure it was booked out.
So if you want to book the rainforest room, do it as soon as you get on board the ship, right, Christy?
Correct.
I mean, the answer's the same.
Okay, well, let's try. You guys stopped at Castaway Cay. We'll talk about that in just a second. But you guys also stopped at NASA, and you had a pretty cool excursion book. Chris, could you talk about the excursion that you guys did, and then kind of how Disney handled the protocols for it?
So yeah, I think this was actually the first time we've gotten off in Nassau since 2003. Anyway, we booked, it was called the Atlantis Beach and Pool Day, and it was like $129 a person. And since we were on the ship for a week and had 2 Nassau stops, I thought we'll get off and do something. So we met in one of the theaters in the morning. They walk you off the ship. There's a bunch of these little buses that would, as soon as they fill up, they'd take you out to Atlantis out there. And they were using one of the Atlantis towers that had no people in it. It was just empty. And it was keeping the Disney bubble that way. So it was probably maybe 200 people on the excursion. And so nothing was crowded. They had a huge pool area, a lazy river area, an area that had like sea turtles, little sharks, stingrays, different little ponds to go look at these animals. And then, of course, the beach. And the beach was like sectioned off so people couldn't come up to where your lounge chairs were and stuff. And so it kept you in the bubble that way. And they actually had like security guards so you couldn't wander off and get out of the bubble. But overall, we had a great day. There was a bar and a little like hamburger type, that served food there and stuff. And it was a great excursion.
That is so cool. I kind of wish they would advertise that that's the way it was, because honestly, on some of my cruises, I wondered how they did it and how they kept you in the bubble and like what protocols were in place. So that would be, for people who are concerned about that, a really good excursion to try.
Yeah, it was completely, you're isolated out there. I think we're the second to the last tower. So you're pretty far away from the main Atlantis buildings, but it was really nice.
How long was the excursion, and did it include food also, or did you pay for that separately?
So it was 6 hours, I believe, and food was separate. So we got some drinks there, and like at lunchtime, the food was taken, like they said, 45 minutes or something. And I wasn't really hungry. So we ended up just leaving about, I think 3:00 so when it ended. We left at 2:30 and then we ate on the ship when we got back.
Because they have those like water taxis, or how did that work? Like, how did they get you back and forth so you could leave earlier if you wanted, like you did?
They said the buses would start running again at 2:00. They had these little buses that held like 25 people, and they would just, as soon as one filled up, they would go. So, and one neat thing is when we were leaving, there was a gentleman there feeding the turtles. I think this guy's been bored out of his life for the last 18 months because there's no one at this hotel. So he started, talking to us, and pretty soon my kids are feeding the turtles, and he's giving us, telling us how to take care of them, doing all this stuff. It was really neat. He was a really nice guy. And so the kids fed the turtles like a box of romaine lettuce. So it was kind of fun.
That sounds like an amazing excursion, because at least for us, we like the beach, but I know Anawake loves actually being by a pool. So spending a little bit of time on the beach, but then also being by the pool and doing the lazy river, kind of a great combination there.
Yeah. The lazy river, if there were 6 people in it at any given time, was a stretch. It was just, because everyone was so spread out in this place that it was very quiet.
Did they have slides there too, or just like little water slides or anything?
No, because the slides are at the main hotel. So this was just this tower. A friend of mine actually stayed there. It says more of an adult-centric type tower they have there, I think, when it's usually being used.
Christy, have you ever done any of the other Atlantis, or have you guys done any of the, Chris, have you done any of the other Atlantis excursions?
We never have.
I haven't. I've been there a few times, but, and I know my brother has done one of the excursions. He absolutely loved it.
That sounds like a perfect day for you. Then, talking about Castaway real quick, we heard that there's Christmas music at Cookies, which kind of got you back into the mood and then back out again, I guess. But I know you guys normally get a cabana over at Serenity Bay. How was Serenity Bay this time?
We're actually on the family beach this time with the kids. But yeah, we had cabana number 4, and it was perfect as usual. There's not much else to say. I mean, you can't beat the location. It's, beautiful beach. It's quiet. The tide was actually high this time, which was nice. So it was a great day.
Boy, that was a Freudian slip on my part, wasn't it? I was thinking about the kids being with you. Sorry about that. What is cabin 8030 by the? Have you actually? Did you get to pick that one? The one on your door behind
your
you?
Sign behind you?
Yeah. So the guy made them. That guy, nothing in particular production. So I had him make those. So I have 8030 is the Walt, and 8530 is the Roy on the Magic.
Ah, that's cool.
I also had him make the first cabin we ever stayed in, which was 7128. And then I also made 12502.
For everybody that's listening, you can't see this, but Chris has got basically the cabin numbers that are on the ship on his closet behind him. And
the porthole number. Yeah,
the porthole numbers and everything. And it's a really cool reproduction. And I'll make sure that I put that in the show notes as far as that, because I think that would be kind of a cool thing to have. I'd like to put that on our office door. So that's pretty cool.
Your recording studio door?
My recording studio door, yeah.
/ closet door.
So he's also making us right now the cabana metal sign with the chalkboard thing.
That's awesome.
To put out by my pool room. So
random conversations here on the DCL podcast today. So.
You don't know what that sign. Do you know what that sign looks like, Steve?
I do not know what that sign looks like, because I've never been down by the cabana. So
I'll make you.
Some are a crab, some are a stingray, some are a fish. And it has the number of the cabana and a chalkboard underneath.
Oh, that is super cool. But I'll make sure that I put. What was the name of it again, Chris? I know I've got the link somewhere, but
nothing in particular productions. Can you guys see that?
Oh yeah, there you go. Although I still think you choose the wrong cabana number. I think it's better down the beach.
So we had 12 and 14. I like 12. I didn't care for
12.
14. 12 was great. It faced the ship. And one of the things, like when picking the cabana, is if you're laying in your hammock and I'm there asleep and drooling, is there another family walking next to me from the other cabana? Because the way they're situated, sometimes the other family walks by you.
Except that in the front of your cabana, you have the little umbrella and the little chairs. And if you're too far down in those early numbers, those umbrellas and chairs are all bunched together. So if you're sitting in your umbrella and chair, you are on top of another family. These are first world problems, if there ever was one, Steve.
They were 6 feet apart.
Exactly. And if you're further down the beach, they're like 15, 20 feet apart.
So I think I've laid in those chairs one time. Lisa usually takes one of the chairs down to the ocean, the water. I usually get a float. So we're usually good.
As you said, first world problems. Anything else stand out as far as spending time at Castaway, Chris? Were the kids pretty excited to be back?
Yeah, they actually hadn't been there. It's been over 2 years. It's been Thanksgiving of 19. So they were super excited to get back. So it was just a great day, great weather. Everything was awesome.
Well, let's get back on board the ship. You guys spend New Year's Eve on board the Disney Dream. I'm kind of curious, like what you said you had to search to find out what was going on. What were some of the things that they had go on New Year's Eve?
So they had, like, when we were eating dinner that night, our server said, I'm going to be pouring champagne on the deck or something. I'm like, what's going up there? He goes, you'll have to wait and see or something. They weren't really promoting everything. They just let people kind of run into it. So they on the deck, they had champagne with a countdown. They did fireworks that night actually at 10:30. I don't know why they couldn't wait till midnight. So I think the different lounges and clubs all kind of had something too, just kind of, just some kind of countdown type thing.
So there's kind of a deck party. Well, I don't know if I want to call it a party.
I guess right. It was just a countdown, right? So I guess there was a countdown on deck if you happen to be on deck, but perhaps there was also countdowns in other public spaces.
Correct. They just weren't really promoting it. They didn't want to have a huge crowd in any one place.
Was there anything different on the dinner menu that night? Did they do anything special?
So the dinner menu that night at all 3 restaurants was the same as a special New Year's menu. I had some kind of crusted filet. That's all I really remember from it. There was a salad, a gem lettuce salad that actually wasn't gem lettuce. But everything was good, and but it was the same menu in all 3 restaurants.
I think we had the gem lettuce salad on Christmas.
There was an actual gem lettuce, though. Ours was green leaf.
I couldn't say.
But it was fine. It was, but it was because I love the avocado ahi from Enchanted Garden. And so a lot of times I'll have my server get me that with whatever restaurant we're in. And like that night I was out of luck because they weren't making it anywhere.
So fireworks at 10:30 instead of midnight. That's kind of, yeah, exactly. Why couldn't they wait like another hour and a half and kind of make that special? But
I mean, they did it twice, 8:30 and 10:30, but it's like, let's do 10:30 and midnight, just kind of mix it up a little bit.
Right. Did they?
Hey, don't talk them into not doing fireworks at 8:30. They could do 8:30 and midnight if you want, but let me keep my early fireworks.
Did they have anything special for the kids at all? Did you notice? Did they do anything special for?
Not that I noticed.
No. Okay. Did they? So Christy, I know I think I can say this. They gave you a lithogram, right? For lithograph, excuse me, for spending time or for sailing over Christmas. Did they do anything special for New Year's, Chris? Yeah,
we got the same lithograph that Christy got actually. So, and we got a little tumbler, like a.
Oh yeah.
They used to do champagne glasses. This is like a tumbler with a lid.
It's like those short, like wine type Keurig cups, whatever. But it was Chris posted it on social media. So his tumbler, I believe that was just a concierge specific gift. But everybody on the ship
everybody on deck. If you're on deck, you got it. I got ours from concierge because I didn't get it on deck. But I know they gave them to everybody on deck.
That's cool. Those were cute cups. The lithograph was given to the Christmas cruise and the New Year's cruise, but did they do it the in-between cruise?
No, we got only for the New Year's cruise. And we also got the normal concierge lithograph for both cruises.
Well, kind of thinking back on the different cruises that you spent, Chris, as far as Easter, Thanksgiving, New Year's now, which one would you go back on?
Thanksgiving's our favorite, I think. That's one we enjoy the most.
The other thing that I thought was kind of cool, did they do this by any chance? The captain came over on Thanksgiving and gave kind of a toast during the dinner. Did they do anything like that for New Year's?
They did, actually. The captain came on and talked for a few minutes and gave a toast for New Year's. To me, the biggest thing about New Year's, not having the Christmas, it felt so, there was no Christmas decorations. And so it just didn't seem quite the same. We're used to being in Aulani where it's, the Christmas music still playing, all the Christmas decorations everywhere, and you celebrate New Year's. It's. I think I like New Year's better at Aulani.
I guess, Disney doesn't want to call it a maritime cruise. Although lately it's not like they're not even decorating a cookie anymore. Like they used to go from making a gingerbread house to now decorating a cookie. They're not doing that. Who knows if they'll bring it back post-COVID era, but just leave the tree up and don't call it a maritime cruise then. I mean, who's going to get angry that there's a tree in the lobby? I guess somebody out there will get angry that there's a tree in the lobby, but I feel like more people would be appreciative of the tree, even if they don't call it a maritime cruise, and like keep you in that holiday spirit. Because to me,
exactly,
like you guys were talking about, lights and trees are like, our holiday spirit to me.
And even the concierge host said she was shocked when the tree was down that morning. She was not expecting that at all. So I don't know. Maybe that the people that had to take it down could only do it that day or so. I have no idea. It just seemed odd.
So kind of anticlimactic a little bit in some ways without the tree and without kind of gatherings and stuff like that through New Year's. Well, I guess as we kind of finish up today, Chris, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or anything that we missed as far as what you guys enjoyed, some things that stood out during this cruise or the two cruises?
No, I think that was it. I don't know if you want to touch on how the COVID protocols changed a little bit during the cruise or.
Yeah. What did you notice that was different from the first time when you guys sailed on the Fantasy?
From the Fantasy to this sailing, nothing had changed. It was in between our sailings when things changed a little bit for us. On the second sailing, on the photo places, you had to leave your mask on, like in the atrium and stuff. And they canceled a couple of our shows. So we had Believe and Beauty and the Beast, I believe. And that's the only thing Lisa wanted to see. And the first sailing was supposed to be 2 nights. And the second night was supposed to happen. It was Enchanto in the theater instead. And then on the second cruise, I'm not sure if Beauty and the Beast ever happened, to be honest with you. So I don't know if something was going on there, but a couple things were going on at the time.
I think those were Omicron specific changes. And unfortunately, through this month of January, I'm not sure when this show is going to air, but I think that kind of alterations of the schedule are just going to occur. But hopefully less will occur as, this waves rushes through people and then moves on.
And I know the crew on the Dream had not been able to get off the ship for 2-3 weeks, like in port, like to buy stuff at Walmart or go to Nassau to get Wi-Fi and whatever. So the Omicron had changed that for them too. I know they were a little pent up because they couldn't get off anywhere. And whatever happened on our cruise, it didn't really affect much of it. We still had a great time. We were on the ship. But I think there's going to be little changes going back and forth until this wave ends, like Christy said.
Here's a question I have to ask, though. So not related to COVID at all, but, I think once I was going to consider a back-to-back instead of a 7-night, and somebody was like, but don't forget, it's just a repeat of the menus. It's like it's like Groundhog's Day, but with one extra day in your cruise. And I was like, oh, right. Like the shows are going to be the same. The welcome stuff's going to, literally everything is the same except for the one extra day, bouncing from a 4-day to a 3-day. How did you feel about that with no alterations of the menus and things like that?
So when we booked this, we wanted to do a New Year's cruise and we looked at the Fantasy sailing and we would have to fly on Christmas Day. So I was like, we didn't want to do that. We looked at the Magic sailing. It kind of worked. I was like, we can do the back-to-back and get 2 days of Castaway in that same week. Obviously, some of the stuff would be the same, but it's like, it just gave us more opportunities. Like, Lisa wanted to see Beauty and the Beast. It's like, well, you could watch it on the second sailing, which actually didn't happen for her, but we had those options of, you feel like you had more time to do other stuff. It's like, well, we can do that on the next sailing, That's how we kind of went into it. And since we eat at Powell a lot anyway, the menu repeating didn't bother us too much.
How did you work that with one child that's over 18 and one child that's not?
So Nicholas is, 16, he'll be 17 in a few months. He could care less going to dinner with his parents, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
He is happy just going to get pizza, right? So we took Emily to dinner on the first sailing and one brunch on the second sailing. And then the last night of the sailing, since we'd been there, it was 7 nights, we decided to get Powell delivered to our room since we had the suite. And so we had early Powell dinner, and I would get everything packed up and be ready to get off in the morning. So it worked out really well. So Nicholas got to eat Powell anyway.
Does he go to the kids clubs at all, the teen club?
He did on the first sailing one time, and then not too much. And he he slept a lot on this sailing, it seems like, he had no reason to get up, so he would sleep pretty late in the day.
Teenage life.
Yes, 100%.
I think these sailings with teenagers, if you don't have a friend or a buddy with, and the 4 and 3 day sailings are really tough because there's so many groups together, like large families traveling together. So kids have already got kind of built in at that age group. I think it's a little bit tougher to, Andrew felt the same way when we went on our 4 days. So he only went up there for an hour and then left.
Yeah. Nicholas was content if we weren't doing something, just playing games on his phone, or he took his laptop with him. So.
Yeah, same here. Okay, one last question, and then we'll touch on what you guys got planned next. But what did Emily think about going to Palo? I know both our kids are excited. I don't know if it's just because they can't go, but they're both excited to eventually go with us once they can.
She loved it. She had a great time. She doesn't realize how the brunch is different, so she didn't realize what she's missing there. But she loved it and had a great meal both nights. So it was something that was a long time coming, because she turned 18 in February of 20, and we should have been on the Fantasy in March of 20. So,
well, special dinner for her at least on board, and Nick got his pizza. So there you go. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for all you do, coming back on our podcast all the time. I appreciate your takes and kind of your experiences and sharing it with others. What's next for you guys? What do you guys have planned?
So Lisa and I have New Orleans, I think February 28th. And then we won't sail again until June on the Magic, where we'll run into some other people we might know.
Yeah, hopefully that's all going to go well in June.
And then we have Alaska after that. And then Lisa and I will finally get on the Wish in September for my birthday and our anniversary. And we have it's one of the 2-story suites booked. I don't know which one it even is. So,
did you do a back-to-back on that one too? Just because they're only 4 or 3?
So I actually have a back-to-back booked right now. And after doing this back-to-back, and I'm kind of thinking maybe we'll just scrap the 3-day part and just do the Disney World for a couple of days instead. I'm going to keep it for a while, just to kind of, one thing I'm doing the back-to-back right now with COVID testing, it's really stressful that, it's like, am I going to be able to come back to this room? Is someone else going to pack my stuff up? That added a lot of stress to that morning. So I don't know if I want to deal with that again, to be honest with you.
Yeah, good points there. Well, I wish you all the best as the 2022 kind of kicks off here. All the best to you and your family, Lisa, Nick, and Emily. Hope you guys have a great year this year. Enjoy that sailing on the wander down at New Orleans. We're going to be on it a couple weeks before you. So hopefully that all works out for everybody down there, and hope to see you in the summer.
Thank you again. Happy New Year, guys.
All right. Happy New Year, Chris. Have a great time. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap for our show this week. Once again, I really want to thank Chris for coming on and sharing his and his family's experiences as they sailed on the beautiful Disney Dream on a back-to-back over New Year's. It's always good to catch up with good friends of the show. You can follow Chris over on Twitter if you're on Twitter at Chris in the Concierge Lounge, and follow all of his and his family's experiences and travels as they travel all around the Disney community, Walt Disney World, Disney Cruise Line, and also down to Disneyland. As always, we'd like to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. They help bring this show to you each and every week ad-free. If you'd like to learn how you can support this show via Patreon, you can go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there. We'd also like to give a huge shout out to everybody who's left us an Apple Podcast review lately. That really helps us get the word out in the Disney cruising and the Disney podcasting community in general. If you haven't done so, if you could go over and do so, we sure would appreciate it. Once again, that helps us just spread the word for the show and helps others find it. Well, between now and our next show, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us here at the DCL podcast, we want to wish you and your families be well out there, enjoy the time traveling together, and we'll see you next time on the DCL podcast. The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.